Thank you, Kylie, for sharing with us the key features of the ALS system. Up next, we will share with you the lower set math content in ALS and how ALS has been tailored to support the math curriculum. I'll pass the time over to Deborah. Yeah.
Thank you, Hui Min. So the development for ALS for mathematics actually started in 2022 with a proof of concept for primary levels for 3 topics as mentioned by AIEd. And then in the same year, we also started work on the ALS curriculum map for lower secondary mathematics and writing of the assessment items once the map was formalized. And in 2003, there was an extended pilot in a few more primary schools, which is mainly to gather user feedback on the system. And on the lower secondary side, we reviewed all the existing SLS resources that were suitable for ALS use, and we began developing more resources to further populate the system. And many thanks to SCAB as in writing assessment items, as well as AST for crowdsourcing more ALP2 videos to enable us to launch the system in the entire suite of topics for the lower secondary numbers and algebra strand. So by the second quarter of 2026, we aim to complete all the 3 strands of the lower secondary syllabus. Okay. So here you can see a portion of the curriculum map for the topic of vectors and multiples. So the learning outcomes in our syllabus have actually been broken down into modules, which are smaller skill sets needed for each learning outcome. And these modules, as mentioned already by Kylie, they are not arranged in a linear order, but somewhat like a web form, with some modules acting as prerequisite knowledge for the others. So these are the topics that have been covered, and all the resources are already ready on the system. For secondary 1 and secondary 2, everything in numbers and algebra. You can see all the detailed list here. And for geometry, about half of it will be coming by June this year. And as mentioned earlier, statistics will come in by 2026. So previously covered by AIEd, there are the various learning modes that a student can go through. And here we would like to show you some screenshots of what each ALP entails. So assuming a student goes into the guided learning mode, they will first encounter an ALP1 resource, which is meant to trigger students' interest in the topic or elicit their prior knowledge. And note that this resource can come in the form of either a video, infographic, or interactive. And the average duration for ALP1 video is about 2 to 3 minutes long, so they are meant to be short. So after completing ALP1, or if they are deemed not to have mastered the topic, should they choose the mastery check learning mode, the students will then be directed to an ALP2 resource. This is where the actual teaching of concept and skills will take place. Some videos will also include small segments to challenge students to go further and find out more. Similar to ALP1, these resources can also come in the form of videos, infographics, or interactives. So with the help of AST, there are at least 1 to 3 bundles of these ALP2 resources, all covering the same skill set. So this is so if the students do require a revisit to the ALP2, the system will ideally direct them to something that they previously have not seen before. Okay, so after ALP2, then students will enter ALP3, which involves them answering questions to allow them to practice what they just learned in ALP2. And students will attempt 3 questions at a time with 2 tries per question. And similar to ALP2, there are also 3 different bundles to ensure minimal repetition should the student need to revisit ALP3. But each bundle have been designed with similar variation in nature and difficulty. And for these questions, ALP3, hints will be provided along with intermediate feedback meant to clue the students should they get it wrong on the first try. So for some topics, we have also included the affordances of FA Math for some assessment items in both ALP3 as well as the quiz segment later. This includes topics like percentage as well as graph plotting. This is a graph plotting example. Okay, finally, in the quiz section, as you can see from the screenshot, we have populated at least 11 questions in the system, and these 11 questions are of varying demand levels. So just like what Kylie had mentioned, the student will not be asked to go through all 11 at one go. Instead, the system will recommend a select number of questions before deciding if the student has mastered the topic, before making its next recommendation to either go back to ALP2 or move on to the next module. So likewise, to ALP3, the quiz segment, each question has 2 attempts, but in this case, there's no hint or no intermediate feedback will be given. And then finally, at the end of the quiz, they will be able to tell how they have performed before receiving the next recommendation by the system.